Hello boys and girls, welcome to my channel. I'm BT. For today, what I have here is Kona. It's a game developed by Parable, their first new game, and it's using Unity Engine 5. So this game was also released on the consoles, I'm not sure about Xbox, but it was launched on the PS4 and got attention by many people, and one of them it was me, but since I have a PC, and my job here is benchmark the game, I decided to give it a try. So one of the things that I want to talk about this game, which curiously it's the same thing as saying China in Portuguese, which makes me laugh a lot, but in fact it seems that it is a place somewhere in the world, is that this game is a little bit about investigating some sort of stuff, and as you can see I'm playing the game on the maximum settings. Let me just show you the difference between the high, the median, and many other settings. This is the median one, as you can see. This is how it looks, the presets. I have done the benchmark of these settings, and you can find them on the description of the video, but for this video I will be using completely maxed out settings. So I put it the ultra and I maxed it out everything. The only thing I reduced a little is the field of view, because it's more of a matter of not really liking it to having maxed out, because it seems very wide for my screen, and so I decided to use the 80. So I'm going to apply it, and there you go. So Kona is about pretty much an investigation game in the first person. One of the things that I like it a lot is that it's very immersive. Unfortunately I had to remove the music most because of copyright stuff, and I don't want to get takedown because of the copyright, but that's pretty much it. So I'm going to play a little bit of the very beginning, and I'm actually recording with AMD Radeon Relive. If you want to check the results without recording, you can check it on the description of the video for the maximum settings, for the ultra, for the high, and for the median. And that's pretty much it. And always, like always, at the end of the video you can find a little bit discussion about the frame rate that I have in those multiple settings without recording. So hope you enjoyed the video, the rest of the video, and I do hope to see you soon. Goodbye.
Hamilton never mentioned a road-blocking barrier. Why was it needed here in the back of Beyond? That would, however, be a mystery for another day. Carl had waited long enough for someone to come and raise it. Hamilton is waiting for Carl in the general store. It was time for him to get down to business. William Hamilton enjoyed a lavish country house built in the very heart of the northern forests, not too far from here. The local populace was divided when it came to the affluent man. Some saw a wealthy philanthropist dedicated to improving the region's economy. Others an aging Englishman who would do anything to further his fortunes. And those ones hated him enough to go on about scheming against him. Hamilton had recently acquired a few local businesses, but the last straw was the reopening of a mine, which gave rise to a wave of protests and threats from the Cree people. Given these circumstances, Carl reckoned that a good number of people must be feeling compelled to oppose Hamilton in one way or another. So far, only the industrialist's house had been a target, but soon enough, Carl thought, the target would become the man himself. Carl needed to get out of there. The cold and the pain required urgent care. The driver had taken off. It was still best to check it out and leave nothing to chance. Carl needed help. Such heart-wrenching Nordic poetry that was. But Carl didn't care much about flowery language. This deep in the country, his last hope was to find an abandoned garage or a farm by the roadside. His life depended on it. Complaining was not in Carl's nature. It would take more than light injuries to interrupt his investigation. Even better than he had hoped, Carl Faubert had succeeded once more and was now on his way to new adventures. Carl, ever diligent in his work, always carried his log on him, in which he scribbled down thoughts and leads alike during the course of his investigations. Spread out on a few acres of untouched forest, bellowing caribou, everlasting snow, and undefiled lakes. The Manistan region was no tourist hub. It was said to have been populated for millennia by Cree people, and ever since the industrial era, by the metal mining industry. The truck was running on fumes. Good thing that the general store was close by. wouldn't surrender their divine nectar so easily. In all likelihood, they had to be switched on from inside the store. A milkman had to drive by every week to fill the bottles. The fresh milk indicated a recent visit. Something fell to the bottom of the box. Carl had no trouble recognizing his employer. He had been killed. There was no need to be a detective to figure that out. But only a detective could have noticed that the killer had to have been very close, that the fatal blow had been given before the victim even realized. What could be inside that envelope? Carl was taken aback. He knew this address. It was said to be the address of the P.O. box for the Canadian Secret Service. Carl felt a chill down his spine and had a terrifying realization. If Hamilton was dead, then who was going to pay him? An explosion suddenly occurred outside. Carl knew that Gilles Lachance was in charge of the general store. That made him one of Hamilton's employees. A very angry employee, as Carl could plainly see. The snowstorm pummeled everything in its path. Carl was not surprised when he heard no tone. According to that log, it seemed like the whole village owed some money to the general store. Carl was far more interested in the bunch of nearby addresses he had just gotten his hands on, though. A nice picture of the Magasin Lachance store, seemingly taken the day it was first opened. It feels frozen in time, from an era long forgotten. The note explained that the garage and the store couldn't be supplied with electricity at the same time. The note explained that the garage and the store couldn't be supplied with electricity at the same time. Maintaining his composure, Carl recalled something from his military training. Wolves always stay away from populated areas. Wait. Was it about bears? Hate was in the air. Seems like some villagers barely tolerated each other. Carl was used to strange phenomena. But a chunk of ice like this, as if an iceberg came out of the ground, that was a first. The crowbar was stuck under the lift. Notwithstanding Carl's imposing stature, car lifting wasn't part of his skill set yet. Staring intently at the controls won't be enough to make that lift budge. The poor thing was out of power. At long last, the crowbar was within Carl's grasp. Surely it would come in handy at some point. The murder weapon. What was that doing there, Carl wondered. Hamilton must have been determined to keep some information secret to post this key. Shame he got unlucky. Everything made sense now. Poor Hamilton's denunciation was interrupted, and he figured it would be best to lock everything up and send the key to his correspondent, who would receive the box later on. Clever, but not enough. That's what happens to ordinary people playing spy. Carl knew straight away where to find the infuriated Gilles Lachance. Any good investigation would have to start there. Carl was beginning to know the store and its surroundings like the back of his hand. The seeker had sought.
Hello boys and girls, welcome to the performance section of the video. So as you can see, all those results were gathered without recording, doing the exact same thing. Pretty much all the things that I made on the video is in here. So as you can see, comparing maximum settings with the Ultra, it's just 1 FPS of difference, so you can play the game maxed out without any problem. The high settings to Ultra, there isn't too much of a difference, but the medium settings provide us a good boost. And one of the things that I noticed is that graphically is not too much different, the high or the Ultra with the median. And one of the good things about the median settings is that most of the time that you are going to spend on the game, it's going to run above the 60 FPS, which means that you can enable VSync, which is much more comfortable to play. Anyway, if you don't care about playing at 50 FPS or around the 50s and the 60, You can play with maxed out because the difference between the high settings, the ultra or the maximum settings are just too short, okay? So that's the point. So if you look to the, let's take a look on the other stuff, like for example VRAM usage and all that type of stuff. The game uses 1.6 to 2 gigabytes of VRAM for me. I'm not really sure if the game handles it quite well with 1 gigabyte, probably with lower resolutions. I'm not really sure how it works. But for a 2 gigabytes graphic card, it's fine. There is some stutters sometimes while traveling with the car, but that's normal. It feels that it's sometimes the game streams textures and it does a little bit itching, but it's not too often and appears to be always at the same places. The RAM usage was lower than 4 gigabytes, which was kind of surprising. So if you have 4 gigabytes of RAM, this game have no problems with your PC. CPU usage was low, it was between the 30s and the 50%, and GPU usage was completely maxed out without having any single bottleneck at all. So that's all that I want to talk about Kona. Hope you did enjoy the video, and I do hope to see you soon. Goodbye. Thank you a lot for watching.